Hello and welcome back to another in-depth weather video. Today we're going to be talking about more heat, more thunderstorms, more rainfall, a little update on the tropics, and then we're going to continue with our coverage of the drought index, just a little update, and then we're going to finish off with the models. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another in-depth weather video. So here I am on the National Weather Service page, and the heat warnings, advisories, and even watches they're back, but now they're much further north and east. So we have heat advisories and excessive heat warnings in parts of the Great Lakes region, as well as some of the Central Plains areas, not really the northern plains, but kind of the central plains, as well as some excessive heat watches and heat advisories in the northeast. We also have air quality alerts spread out throughout the country, and then we have severe thunderstorm related watches, advisories, and warnings in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And we will talk about that in a second when we go to the radar. So this is what is causing the trouble here. We have this system, could be classified as a derecho, but at the same time, it's kind of not as organized. Earlier, it was a little bit more organized. Right now, it's kind of going in individual cells. But we have to wait a few days to really see if they classify that as a derecho. But I will link, most likely when we go to the Storm Prediction Center, my deep dive derechos in the cards above. I really suggest that you guys go watch that, just to get some information on what a derecho is, and what, if you don't understand like what I'm talking about, I go really in depth into derechos in that video, and it'll kind of bring some more knowledge to the subject. I think that derechos are one of the most underrated meteorological phenomena. We also have some showers in the mountain west as well. Some monsoon rains down here, and then some showers up in the north. And then other than that, some isolated showers in the east here, some tropical rains in Florida. And that is pretty much it for the radar. Let's move on to the Storm Prediction Center. So we're continuing that risk in the northern tier of the country. Slight risks in areas like Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, La Crosse, Green Bay, Duluth, and Marquette, as well as Milwaukee there in the corner. Then marginal risks in areas like Chicago, Norfolk, Omaha, Lincoln, McCook, Colby, Garden City, and Liberal. And then you also have this other small area of marginal risk here in Minot and Bismarck. So those are the actual risks for severe weather. Everywhere else, you're in this general thunderstorm category, which is you have the chance of seeing thunderstorms, but very low chance of them actually being severe. Now let's move on to excessive rainfall. So we do have slight risks in the northern portion of the Great Lakes region, areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Marginal risks in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, as well as another one in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. Now let's move on to the National Hurricane Center. Nothing expected in the Atlantic in the next 48 hours. Eastern Pacific, we are still watching that one disturbance, 10% chance in 48 hours, 30% chance in 5 days. And then the Central Pacific is still empty. So now let's go to the 5-day. Still nothing in the Central. Eastern Pacific, still that one storm, 30% chance of formation in 5 days. Then the Atlantic, still nothing. So we're still in kind of that lull in the tropics. Still in that kind of breather period, which is good, because we definitely need a breather from the tropics, especially in the Atlantic. Now let's go to the drought conditions, where we do have the drought kind of starting to little out here in the Northeast, but everywhere else is very, very similar to yesterday. Just the real big difference is that some of the oranges have kind of gone away in the Northeast. So just a quick overview, and if you're in this yellow, you're in abnormally dry. This beige salmon color is moderate drought. This fire orange is severe drought, and this red is extreme drought, and no one is in exceptional drought. We could actually look at like this week's percentages. So percent of US land area. So none is 56%, abnormally dry is 43%, moderate drought is 23%, severe drought is 9%, and extreme drought is 2%, and then exceptional drought is 0%. So if we do the past week, the drought monitor change, we kind of see that the Northeast is kind of improving a bit, and that areas in the West are starting to deteriorate. But if you're in that green, you're improving, gray is no change, and yellows and oranges are getting worse. So let's move on to the models. So I quickly want to go through the actual radar. You can see that storm moves through, and then really it's just a continuation of that Derecho type event. And then you have just more rounds moving through that area, and eventually they'll make their way into the Northeast a little bit. So just still rounds of thunderstorms in the central part of the country. That has been an ongoing trend. It's still ongoing, and there really doesn't seem to be any relief. Now, let's go to the thermodynamics. Let's talk about temperatures. Temperatures are going to be really high. 80s and 90s, and the 90s especially, starting to make their way north. Triple digits as well. We were talking about Texas, now we're talking about areas like Oklahoma and Kansas starting to get that triple digits. As well as, of course, the desert. So, but you can see that this map is going to start to go into those 90s and 100s, those paler and paler reds and pinks. That is an indicator of really high temperatures. Now, if you're in this like red-orange area, as well as we even have some yellows, that means that you're kind of below there. So, like these fire oranges here in the northern Northeast, that's 80s. Then you have 70s and 60s in the northern plains, and then in the Northwest, you're generally going to be in the 70s and 80s. But if you're higher in elevation, you could see even into the 50s. And it all depends on elevation, mostly for the Mountain West. Now, let's go to the GFS, and I do want to go quickly into relative humidity. Just click through that very quickly. So, humidity is definitely not going away, but if it's raining in your area, so right now that's kind of moving out into the Northeast, and then this low pressure is really going to be bringing in a lot of humidity. So let's move on to just the MSLP and precip, and then let's move into the tropical regions. So now the GFS is showing that to form, but it won't last long. Now it has been showing on and off. Here it is, like these stronger storms. So there is one that's a kind of long-lasting storm, and it maintains its strength pretty far north. So it's usually been showing that at least one storm in the next 384 hours will intensify into a hurricane type storm, but take that with a little grain of salt. Now, North Atlantic, you can see one storm possibly has the chance, but other than that, things have been really, really quiet. So you have like these disturbances. They kind of start to develop, and then they just fizzle out. So we're kind of in a transfer period from where you can get storms forming mostly in the Caribbean, the Gulf, and the east coast of the U.S. to the West African disturbance line and other areas like that. Because once the West African disturbance line really kicks up, then we're going to be getting more severe storms. So that's all I wanted to cover today. I hope you all have a great Saturday, and I'll see you again tomorrow.